A report has finally been released regarding the Washington, D.C. helicopter crash in January, and let's just say it's not looking too good for DEI or feminism. Many of you remember this. This was this bizarre situation where a BlackHawk military helicopter collided head-on directly with a passenger jet. And it was just a insane scenario here because just of where the two aircraft were. And the fact it wasn't like the helicopter clipped the plane. It was a head-on collision. And directly after this incident, people were wondering who were piloting the aircraft. It took a while to figure that out. Finally, they released the names, and it was these two people right here. May they rest in peace. Very sad. Their names were Lobach, and then the other one was Eves. One was a male, one was a female, but they would not release who exactly was the one in control of the aircraft at the time of the collision. But I think most of us kind of knew who was in control of the aircraft. And this is not really to bust on women, but we all know, and this has been a criticism of our government for many years, about the push for DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is how most people could figure out who exactly was in control of this aircraft when it collided with the passenger jet. And of course, DEI would elevate certain demographics who may not be skilled enough in their roles in order to increase the number of those demographics in these fields. And this would be all well and good. However, some of these fields, if they are in the wrong hands, or if they're, for instance here, where a helicopter is being piloted, it could be a very dangerous situation for someone not skilled enough to be piloting this aircraft. And I think that's how most of us kind of knew between the two of these individuals, the odds are on it was probably the woman piloting the helicopter. But this is the report that just came out today. BlackHawk pilot failed to heed flight instructor in moments before plane collision over D.C. The pilot of the military BlackHawk helicopter that collided with a passenger airplane over Washington, D.C. in January ignored instructions to change course seconds before the crash, according to this new report. The report that was published by the New York Times detailed the BlackHawk's exchanges with air traffic controllers in the lead up to the disaster, which left 67 people dead. According to the report, the BlackHawk pilot, Captain Rebecca Lobach, was conducting her annual flight evaluation, and her co-pilot, Chief Warrant Officer 2, Andrew Lloyd Eves, was serving as her flight instructor. When air traffic controllers informed the BlackHawk that there was an airliner nearby, Lobach and Eves acknowledged the message and requested to fly by, quote, visual separation, which is a common practice that allows aircraft to avoid collisions based on their own observations rather than following instructions from air traffic control. Quote, the BlackHawk was 15 seconds away from crossing paths with the jet. Warrant Officer Eves turned his attention to Captain Lobach, and he told her he believed that the air traffic control wanted them to turn left toward the East River bank. This is from the Times. The report says turning left would have opened up more space between the helicopter and Flight 5342, which was heading for runway 33 at an altitude of roughly 300 feet. But there was one problem. She did not turn left, which is a tragic mistake. Lobach of Durham, North Carolina, served as an aviation officer in the Army beginning in July 2019 and had around 500 hours of flying time in the BlackHawk, the Army said in a release. Lobach was assigned to the 12th Aviation Battalion in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Her awards included the Army Commendation Medal, Army Achievement Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and Army Service Ribbon, according to the Army. She was also a White House military social aide in the Biden administration. So this kind of opens it up to more conclusions that you can draw, because Biden and the Biden administration was kind of the DEI administration. And, I'm all for women piloting planes and piloting helicopters. That's great. But it kind of makes a person skeptical when you see these quotas that they would put out there for not just companies, but then military and, schools and stuff. How exactly are they actually getting these numbers of the specific types of individuals? Because a lot of times these individuals, they're not the typical types of people that you see in these roles. So how do you account for that? Well, you have to adjust your standards. You have to lower your standards to get these different types, these different sexes and these different demographics to be in these fields. The third member of the flight crew, along with Lobach and Eve, was Staff Sergeant Ryan O'Hara. The crash instantly caused national scrutiny on air traffic control policies, with Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy opening an investigation. And it turns out it was not the air traffic controller's fault. It turns out they were well aware of the airliner in the air. And of course, Sean Duffy, though, I remember this when it happened. He was boots on the ground, like instantly. Like this guy, he was appointed, put in his role, and then this happens. It was like, I want to say it was within like a couple days or a few days of him actually being confirmed in his Secretary of Transportation position. So he had a pretty insane first few weeks on the job. Duffy announced plans in March to bolster air traffic control systems with the latest technology over the next 4 years, while also using artificial intelligence to identify hotspots where close encounters between aircraft occur frequently. There have been 85 near misses or close calls at Reagan National, according to a report from the National Travel Safety Board. Close calls were identified as incidents when there are less than 200 feet of vertical separation and 1,500 feet of lateral separation between the aircraft. Quote, "We're having near misses, and if we don't change our way, we're going to lose lives," Duffy told reporters at the time. That wasn't done. Maybe there was a focus on something other than safety. But in this administration, we are focusing on safety. So that is what we know from this report, kind of confirming a lot of people's suspicions. It's not an exact science, when you're looking at these things. But, it's like an odds thing, When you have a DEI administration and they're putting people in roles where their skills might not actually be there, a lot of people assume maybe this was the female pilot that was in control of the helicopter. And in this case, it was. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think of this tragic situation? I really hope we're over the DEI push for good, because I would prefer someone piloting, if I was in a airplane flying somewhere, I would prefer someone that piloted my plane to have the highest of standards, and for the standards not to be lowered in order for a female or a black person or a white person, I don't care who it is, to fly the plane. All I care about is you get me from point A or point B. And this goes for doctors, dentists, taxi drivers. I don't care. Whatever that standard is, the person put in that position should meet that high standard. And I'm not sure that this is the case in this situation, but makes a lot of people wonder. But let me know what you think down below in the comments. Like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until then, I'll see you on the next one.